Just waiting for it. Welcome to Treaty Talk, episode 291. John Keogh here, filling in for Tom Clancy, who will be with myself and Matt O'Callaghan later on for some predictions in the Limerick Senior Hurling Championship. It is all about hurling pretty much this week due to the start of the Bonsecures Hospital Limerick Senior Hurling Championship, second round of the Lions of Limerick Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship. We also have the Nick Green Intermediate Hurling Championship, as well as the Premier Junior A Hurling Championship and Junior A Hurling Championships, all getting underway this weekend. We are ready to go here, and welcome to today's show.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody. That's the reality of it, Matt. Welcome, number one, to episode 291 of the Treaty Talk podcast. It's all about the Senior Hurling Championship to start off this afternoon, Matt. Look, it's for the first time in a long time, Matt. Either myself, yourself, Jack, or Tom, we're coming into the championship with the county team not as All-Ireland champions. A little bit of a misnomer in a way, a little bit of a distraction for us in one sense, that we don't have to, that we don't have that behind us. But look, I'm sure we're set up for a fantastic championship from a hurling point of view. I know we had the Premier Intermediate Championship start last weekend. We'll talk about that, but it's the big one starting this Thursday afternoon, or Thursday evening, I should say.
It is, but what I would say about your opening remark there about we not being All-Ireland champions, what struck me since we became All-Ireland champions and struck me very forcibly in 2018 when we had won an All-Ireland after 45 years, how the players immediately came down from the high of winning in Croke Park to turn out and play such important parts for their clubs. I think it was typical of the character of that particular squad. And mind you, they've only paused. They're not gone away. They're only taking a break. But that was one thing that never ceased to strike me, because like you had landmark occasions, winning an All-Ireland after 45 years, you had completing 2 in a row, which we'd never done, 3 in a row, which we had certainly not done, 4 in a row, which only Cork and Kilkenny have done. We had reached terrible landmarks, but the players on the county team never, without exception, failed to deliver for their clubs, which is testimony to the character of those guys.
No, absolutely it is. I was at the launch on Tuesday evening, Matt, at the Bonsecures Hospital down by the river in Limerick City, and the excitement of all 12 clubs. Spoke to representatives of all 12 clubs. Videos you'll be able to see throughout Sporting Limerick's socials during the week. And from talk to a couple of the Limerick players were there, Darragh O'Donovan from Doon and Mike Casey from Champions in Piarsaigh representing their clubs, and the talk of the excitement and getting back to the clubs, Matt, it does bring them a huge sense of pride to bring what they've done at inter-county level back into the club. And it's the same thing they're saying to us every year. They can't wait for the club championship to start.
No, we can't wait either for the excitement. And now that we have finished the inter-county scene and parked it, and over the last couple of weeks there was a bit of tidying up done, bits and pieces, finishing league finals and getting going in the minor championships and what have you. But now we're into the real business, the real meat of the championship. It kicks off on Thursday night.
It does indeed, Matt, and we'll get straight into it. Look, we'll you've the holders in the Piarsaigh, obviously, Matt, they're coming in again as favourites. They start off their their championship against Patrickswell on Friday night. That's the group 2. We'll talk about that in a moment. They're the fixtures for this weekend, starting with that Doon Kilmallock fixture. We'll probably talk about that one first, Matt, in a moment or so. That's on Thursday evening at the 2 Gaelic grounds. Don't have it on screen. You also see the games on Friday in the Piarsaigh Patrickswell, a repeat of the county final of 2023. And obviously, newcomers to Senior A, as we call it, Mungret St. Paul's up against Ahane. 3 cracking games to start off, Matt. And, we'll talk to Kilmallock first, maybe, since it's the first one up on Thursday evening. I repeat, these sides, and even talking to Dan Joy and Dara last Monday evening, at the launch, these 2 sides know each other so well. They've always provided very high quality contests, especially over the last 2 or 3 years.
They have, and they have. Like, it was very interesting last year. They met in the league final in Bruff. And as far as I remember, I'm speaking from memory now, I think Kilmallock raced into something like an 8, 9 or 10 point lead early on, only to be hauled back, and Doon came back and won it. Now, they met a couple of weeks later in the championship, and Kilmallock had a huge win. Now, what you have to say about Doon is last year, Doon were without the 6 defenders that turned out in the county semi-final the previous year. And one can but admire what Doon did last year to stay afloat, because they got a heavy defeat from Kilmallock. And you were saying to yourself, these guys are in real trouble.
And there's another one from the Piarsaigh Met as well, a couple of weeks later. Like they did.
But 6 days after the Kilmallock one, they bounced back and beat Patrickswell, who had beaten the Piarsaigh in the first round.
Yeah.
So that will give you an idea. Now, I presume they're going to have a number of players back. They'll have Richie English back anyway, and probably Mikey O'Brien, Garrett Thomas, Tom Hayes. If you're without your defence, like if any club at any level is asked to go out the following year without the defence that finished the previous year, you're going to be in serious trouble, John.
You are, and Matt, it was testament to the group of players. We saw leadership roles from Adam English last year. I remember one game in particular against Kildimo Pallaskenry where he marked Kyle Hayes, and he followed Kyle Hayes into full forward. Adam English operating as a full back.
That's right.
It was a game we were streaming, and guys like him stood up. You'd like to see young Maher, Kevin Maher, an absolutely outstanding season, and young Donald Coughlin in the corner. All lads that stood up massively to the task. And again, talking to Dara, they have another few young lads out of minor that are pushing hard for starting places this year. So
what about Eddie Stokes and settling in at centre half back?
Exactly, Matt. So they're going to be stronger Doon this year. Kilmallock, as you know only too well, had a good league. They were happy enough with what they got from the league, and Peter Queally in charge there now this year with them. We know Kilmallock had an outstanding group campaign last year, but when it came down to it, come semi-final time, they didn't have it against Patrickswell. And that's not having a go, Kilmallock, not for 1 second. Very impressive up to that, but it was a flat performance. And they were caught out badly by a dominant Patrickswell team in that semi-final. They'll be looking to kind of right a few wrongs from last year too.
They will. And what I thought of Kilmallock last year was, I was finding it hard to establish where exactly Kilmallock were at last year. And I honestly thought that, they were quite happy, to amble through the group stages, do what they have to do, and got it done. Were involved in an absolute classic with Patrickswell and Cappamore. You will remember that. An unbelievable game. And I was of the opinion at that stage that, right, Kilmallock have finally found their form. But then they had that non-entity game, that dead rubber game with the Piarsaigh in the final round. These type of games don't suit anybody, John. Because clubs don't know whether they're coming or going, and they don't know whether to show their hand or what they'll do. But Kilmallock were a big disappointment in the semi-final. There are no two ways about it. An absolute big disappointment. So, they had beaten Patrickswell in that classic, and it was close, and you'd expect that the semi-final would be close, but that Kilmallock would see it out again. But nobody in their wildest dreams would have predicted that Patrickswell would not turn them over by 10 points, which was what happened. I think it was 225 to 215. This is all from memory now, John, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it was of that in that ballpark anyway, you know?
Yeah.
So, but look, Kilmallock will have a very strong team. If you look through them, like if you look through the big names in it, the number of people that have been involved with the Limerick team since 2018, and you add in Gavin O'Mahony and Paddy O'Brien, who just missed out on this great odyssey. Dan Joy, who you were talking to at the launch, like Dan Joy has an All-Ireland medal. Won at under 21 in 2017, and you've all those type of players. Kilmallock still have a very strong group of players, but so have Doon, you know. And Derek McGrath has come in there now, Doon, this year, and it'll be very, very interesting to see, you know, what he can do with him. You know, and this is no disrespect to the other teams in this. In the competition, but I think if Doon were to win the championship this year, or any year for that matter, they would be very, very popular winners. They have been so near so often. They've contributed so much to Limerick hurling over the years, and even this year, believe it or not, John, they're fielding 4 adult teams.
Yeah, they are, Matt. Yeah,
you know, absolutely incredible. They've senior, junior A, B, and C. Absolutely fantastic. It'll give you a sense of the work that's going on there. And sure, we have seen them winning minor titles. We've seen them winning under 21 titles. But this must be their holy grail. And like if everybody is on board now, I don't know. Josh Ryan, he got injured playing hurling. Josh is back, certainly playing football. Whether he's going to play hurling or not, I think there's some doubt about it. Yeah, but Josh would be a huge addition were he to play hurling. You know, this is one that's very, very, very hard to call, John. But you know, if you want to showcase what is best in Limerick hurling, I think there is no better opener than Doon and Kilmallock.
Indeed, it promises to be an absolute cracker of a game. Matt, I'll go on to the Friday night one. Just get the fixtures up there again. Piarsaigh versus Patrickswell. As I said a minute ago, a repeat of last year's final. You know, you couldn't. You know, you're talking about doing Kilmallock, it being a great way to start. Well, the second coming on Friday evening at the 2 Gaelic grounds, it doesn't get much better than Piarsaigh Patrickswell. The battles they've had over the last 10 years, I'll go as far as saying, Matt, in the last 4 or 5 years in particular, even. But my God, the battle on the field is going to be a tough one. A fairly interesting one on the sidelines as well, with Shane O'Neill back in charge for a second year again in his second stint as senior manager. But Kieran Carey, correct me if I'm wrong, a third stint as senior hurling manager of Patrickswell.
Oh, absolutely correct, yeah.
You know, and for me, you know, Kieran, again, Tom O'Brien was the Patrickswell representative at the launch on Monday evening, and you know, he was speaking vehemently about Kieran's strengths as manager and how well he knows the players and what he can get out of the players. We know full well, we've seen it time and time with Kieran involved in Patrickswell, what he definitely gets a tune out of them. And so to me, that's just another fascinating challenge again, that Piarsaigh Patrickswell again.
It is fascinating, and you know, you're absolutely right. I believe that there's going to be a third Kerry bounce in Patrickswell, and they'll probably have reflected on last year. You know, now they beat Piarsaigh in the first round last year, if you remember, inside in Ahane. And all right, they lost the county final, but they will be saying to themselves, we're there or thereabouts. What does it take to just get over the line? So, you know, Patrickswell will be very, very strong because, you know, you immediately when we think of Patrickswell, we think of the big three, as they've been known now: Dermot Burns, Cian Lynch, and Anne Gillan. You know, and you have Jason Gillan now, who's breaking through on the county panel as well. But there are an awful lot of very good hurlers in which are below the top three in Patrickswell. And of course, the tradition in Patrickswell is absolutely huge. And whatever it is, Kieran Carey seems to be he's got the best out of him in the past. He has taken him to county honours. But Piarsaigh, you know, Piarsaigh without Peter Casey, you know, let's face it, Peter Casey is a huge loss to Limerick, and you can only just imagine what he is to his club. But no, Na Piarsaigh got a very, very strong side, and it would be very bad. It would be very, very foolish. We cannot define Na Piarsaigh by the way they finished last year in that game with Ballygunner, because that was most on Na Piarsaigh like, and in the end they nearly snatched it. They were very, very, very close to snatching it.
Having had a poor performance by their standards up to that point, up to the final 10 minutes.
For 50 minutes they weren't at the races. I've spoken to one or two of them since, and they were freely admitting it. That they didn't, and whatever happened on the day. But the Piarsaigh have gone nowhere. They're seeking 3 in a row this year. And it's probably a big ask. Now, I think this game is going to be very, very close, because I think that somebody brave would put their head above the parapet and predict when these two meet who's going to win, because 50% of the time we're going to be wrong. But I think this is all the ingredients of a fantastic game, just like we were talking about Doon and Kilmallock. Hurling fans are absolutely spoiled for choice in this county. No, but the one thing I would say about the group, Tom, in general, I'm not so sure it's in the best interest of Limerick hurling if the same 4 come through to the last 4.
Yeah, it needs,
as has happened for 6 of the last 7 years.
It needs a change, Matt. We had that a couple of years ago with South Liberties making the semi-finals, and it was a welcome change. It really was to see it, but it is. Well, we can understand why the 2 groups of 6 is there, but when the same 4 are coming through year on year, that's going to break at some stage, Matt. And to have the same 4 teams in the semi-finals every year. You could have any of the 4 win the competition every year. That thing, I think, is a good thing. But to have the same 4 teams every year, as you said, it isn't in the best interest of Limerick hurling going forward. I mean, maybe a slight tweaking on the championship, but they're the 4 strongest teams, Matt, as well, and they have been. And that's, we'll talk about the third game in the group now, and maybe this is something.
We'll say Na Piarsaigh, Kilmallock, and Patrickswell have divided the county titles between them. For how long now? 14 or 15 years.
Yeah, since Adare.
And when you say the top 4, and that bears out the point that I've made. Doon are always there on their tails, and they're always keeping them honest. But it would be great not just for Doon, but I think for the game and for the format. Doon to emerge this year.
It's a fair point, Matt. We'll just bring this up now. The last game of the weekend takes place Saturday. Mungret St. Paul's versus Ahane in Clohan. That's Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Matt, you're looking at that game. Ahane have improved in the last couple of years. I think it's safe to say they've been the team finishing 5th in the group, even with that. But they've been unlucky in a couple of games too, where they could have, maybe toppled, have come close. Certainly weren't happy talking to Kieran Barry on Monday. He was the Ahane representative at the Bonsecures Hospital for the launch, and that was a point he made. They felt in their game against Doon that was on in Cappamore, the last group game, they felt they let themselves down and didn't perform anywhere near where they expected to perform. So maybe they're, looking at something, but Matt, they're up against the Mungret St. Paul's side that, raced away to victory in the end in Senior B last season. They won the 21 Premier Championship. They won the Junior A Hurling Championship last year to go up intermediate. They're a club on very much on the up, as we've spoken about plenty of times ourselves, either on this platform or between ourselves as well. So Mungret will be champing at the bit. We've seen what they've done in the senior football, winning 2 from 2 since gaining promotion at that, and they'll be fairly confident, Matt, of taking a few scalps. We're talking about a team maybe breaking into that top 3 or 4. Could Mungret or Ahane do it this year?
That's the big question, and I was just studying Ahane's form for the last 12 months and their games in the group stages last year, and they ended the 5-match series with just 1 win, and that was over Kildimo Pallaskenry. but it could have very, very easily have been. It could have even been 3 wins. They were that close in a couple of games.
Yeah, I remember the game against Kilmallock out in Doon. I think it was on that game we streamed. And again, that Ahane were dominant in that game. Kilmallock got a run at them to start of the second half, and it was, they kicked on from there. But that Ahane side nearly pulled off a couple of big results, as you said.
They pushed Patrickswell all the way as well. I think there was only 3 points in it in the finish. The Ahane are not going to be a pushover. And you see, the way it is structured for the last couple of years, with the seeding of the semi-finalists, we have this situation where the 4 regulars in the semi-finals are meeting in the first round. Whatever combinations it'll throw up, and the other 2 are meeting in the first round also. I think if there was something done to change that, to create a bit of jeopardy going through through the various rounds. There was a lot of things that I liked about Ahane last year. I saw him twice, and I would put Ahane down as 2 points out of 10. In my view, did not fully reflect what Ahane deserved. Now, Mungret St. Paul's, look, it's a fairy tale story, John. And I know that there's a crossover between the hurling and the football, and a lot of juggling to be done there between Kevin O'Hagan and Brian Begley, but done very, very successfully. And how happy they will be, as you alluded to, back up at senior football, and to put 2 wins in the locker, before they poke a ball in the hurling, so that when the 3rd round review resumes in mid-August, you can see that the strong position that they are in football. Now, they will be hoping to do the same in hurling, but I don't think it's going to be quite as easy as that. It's a big step up, Tom, because if it wasn't, John, if it wasn't a big step up, we'd have had more Group 2 teams beating Group 1 teams in the quarterfinal. It has only happened once, and that was the South Liberties versus Patrickswell, which you alluded to a while ago. So that they're going to find it a step up, and a big step up. And of course, Ahane have been there now with a while, and because of what has happened in the last number of years, with the same 4 going through to the semi-finals, I would hate, or going through to the knockout stage from the group, I would hate if either of these teams were of the mindset, that this is the game we have to win to stay afloat.
It's a big game, Matt. It's
a big game anyway.
Even for that reason, though, because they're the 2 teams that are, being tipped to be the bottom 2 teams of the group. Whether, look, they're not our predictions. We'll talk about predictions later on, but the bookies' predictions does say exactly that. And depending on what bookie you go to, it's one or the other. Which both teams will be looking at that and going, well, if we needed any motivation, it's right there. I don't think they do need any motivation, Matt. I think you're right. They'll be looking at knockout stages because they have to. I think they'll both argue, what are we at if we're not looking at that? Matt, before we get predictions, we'll move on to the second group. I'll throw up the fixtures now here as well. Starting with Drumnathlacka versus South Liberties on Thursday evening. You go into Friday, Kildimo, Pallaskenry and Adare, and then finishing off on Saturday, Monaleen and Ballybrown. Matt, we're talking about Group 1 and Senior A being a hotbed of tight fixtures. It's fairly rampant in Group 2 as well. Starting with that one, the Drumnathlacka South Liberties game alone has plenty of connotations in that as well, with Athlacka coming up, having won Premier Intermediate last year, and South Liberties only staying up senior by virtue of a victory over Garsplan, the relegation decider.
Yeah, this is welcome to a hurling bear pit, I would say, with the 6 teams that are in it, and very, very hard to split them. And as you say, South Liberties only ensured status last year with that final round win over Garsplan after suffering 4 heavy defeats and not able to buy a goal. When it came to that final game, they were able to find 7 of them, which was the right night to find it. And they signed off last year on a right note, but this is another year now, and they'll be facing a Drummond and Clackass side that are coming up, that have been down the Senior Road before. Now it's some time since they were down there, but they have some very, very experienced players, and they have an awful lot of very good young players coming through. And I'm talking about the like of Keane Scully, who was the Limerick under-20 captain this year. I'm talking about the like of Shane Fitzgibbon, who was Skull Pole joint captain, and fellas like that coming through. Sean Morrissey, a former Limerick minor captain. All these lads coming through like so. And of course, you have Mr. Reedy, Mr. David Reedy, the real talisman of the group. So Drummond and Clackass will be looking forward to it, and I think they will be very, very comfortable facing into the game on Thursday night, and they will be looking to get off to a winning start. And as I said, we'll be coming to predictions later, but certainly, South Liberties can hardly ill afford. They can ill afford to have the same type of start as they had last year, which was paltry. It was appalling. Now, I saw them recently. They picked up the Junior B league title, and I thought there was a couple of players there now that certainly would not be lost in senior. And I understand then Anthony Nash, who turned out for the first and the last game last year. I think he's back among their ranks anyway. He's coaching
the team as well. Yeah, he is
coaching the team as well.
But Albert McSweeney is manager.
Yeah, Albert McSweeney. But he Nash is more than a player. Like what he brings to the table in terms of his experience and his leadership on the field, and that was very, very evident in the game against Pallaskeny last year. A big player for him. And of course, we just hope, of course, that Barry Nash, who sat out the All-Ireland semi-final, will be fit. That is very, very, very big for South Liberties. Were he to miss out, I'll tell you, they could possibly be in trouble.
Yeah, he's such a huge player, no matter what team he's on, Matt. But for that South Liberties team, he's more than a talisman. He's in a lot of ways, he's their go-to guy. I do believe, from what I gathered, they have a number of players back from last year, from what I'm told. But, it's still a big task to, you use the word bear pit. We'll talk about the other fixtures now as well, as I put them back on screen. That's the first one. Kildimo, Pallaskenry versus Adare, Matt. We'll talk about Monaleen and Ballybrown a bit. But I
just wanted to finish off there on South Liberties. Yeah. And when I'm talking about Barry Nash and the contribution that he makes to him, I think we got a very great sense of his value to Limerick in the All-Ireland semi-final this year when we were without him.
We did. Absolutely, we did. Okay, as I said, we'll get to predictions, Matt. I'm waiting with bated breath for those in a while, but for the moment, we'll move on.
I'm waiting to hear what you have to say, John, and wait till Clancy comes in and...
Yeah, Tom Clancy will join us in a while for the predictions part. He'll explain why in a few minutes, but
because he was talking here the last time we were talking about predictions after the football 2 rounds. He was just pointing out how you were lagging a good bit behind.
Well, there was a few. I think there was a few shenanigans going on there, but we'll move on.
Really rotten, John.
I think I was fairly correct on one of them, or the two he got it badly wrong. But we'll move on. We'll move on past that. It's a bit of fun and games after all. Matt, Kildimo, Pallaskenry, and Adare. Adare, down at Senior B again. Kildimo, Pallaskenry. Adare for a second year, of course. Kildimo, Pallaskenry, having been Senior A in 2023, having lost 5 out of 5. Back down to Senior B, a tight contest there. From what I gather, Kildimo, Pallaskenry have a fair few injury worries. I haven't heard much from the Adare camp. It'll be interesting to see what they have available to them. But Matt, either way, this is a big game. They're all games, I know, but for teams that have designs of playing Senior A in 2025, this is probably a must-win straight off the bat.
Yeah, reflecting on Kildimo Pallaskenry first. You know, the trajectory up to last year had been all upward. Since they became Premier or intermediate champions in 2017, went on to win the Premier, went on to win Group B and be promoted from Group B up to Group A, and it was like reaching the Holy Grail, we'll say, for any club. But the slide has started, and it was a worrying slide, I thought, last year, in the fact that they won no game. They lost 5 games. So not only are you have to arrest, you know, the fallout from relegation, but you have also to arrest a horrible winless run of 5 games. And I'm not so sure, looking at that group, that Adare would be the ideal team that you'd want to meet when you're in that situation. Now, I too understand that they have a number of injuries. We know for certain that Barry O'Connell has left and transferred to Tumavara, and that there was some doubt about Darren O'Connell, because he certainly was abroad, but there's the word going around is that he's probably back for the championship. I don't know. Have you had any update on that?
Same as you, Matt. I've heard the same. Yeah.
Yeah. If he wasn't, you know, I think, you know, it's going to make it difficult. But of course, Kyle Hayes on his day, we know what he can do. You know, if you're talking about a potential match winner, there you go. But they've had mixed look also in the football championship. Like last year, they flew out of the traps in the football, won the first 3 games. This year, they've won 1 and lost 1. And lost 1 very, very heavily, which, you know...
of course, Matt, a result of that game, the dying moments of that game, I was at it, was the injury picked up by Cathal Downs, who's also as good a footballer as he is. He's an equally as good hurler and a huge player. And he missed so much of last year's championship as well due to injury, the hurling championship. Yeah. So a huge loss for Kildimo Pallaskenry. On top of
if he misses out, and there's some talk that kind of staff may be injured as well, which would be huge. But just to turn briefly to Adare, of course, their talisman is Declan Hannon. But you know, they have some great players that have been around the block. You have the like of John Fitzgibbon, Willie Griffin, the scoring machine, Joey Hannon, you know, and Brendan O'Connor, and you know, a number of players coming through as well there. So like Michael Keane, he got a run with Limerick earlier in the year, and an
injury-free Michael Keane. Matt, talking to him at the launch, very happy with where he's at from a fitness point of view, which hasn't always been the case from he's suffered, as you and I both know, tremendous injuries from when he was Limerick minor captain.
Yeah, but I saw him lining out with Adare at wing forward, and I thought when he lined out with Limerick at fullback, he was as good a player at fullback that I have seen. Now, I think he captained Limerick. Did he captain Limerick to win a minor championship?
I think a Munster minor championship he did.
Yeah. And he captained them from fullback and had a huge say in it. He was so solid back there. And it'll be interesting to see where they place him. If they place him at fullback, I think he'll be at home, you know. But they are vastly experienced, but they have become a bit of a yo-yo club of recently, up and down. And the last time they were up, they didn't really cut it in Section A. So that too will be an interesting game, but I would worry slightly about Kildimo Pallaskenry with the injuries and the loss of Barry O'Connell. You know, you're losing an All-Ireland medal winner, a Munster under-21 medal winner in 2011. Like you're losing a very, very good player. But you know, it happens, clubs, and all you can do is regroup. But if the injury list is as serious as we're led to believe, you know, it could be a difficult campaign for Kildimo Pallaskenry.
Last game of the Group 2 is on Saturday evening. There it is again, Monaleen versus Ballybrown in Fedamore. Saturday evening game at 7 p.m. Matt, these two sides met at the first round at the exact same stage. First round last year, it was Monaleen on the back of winning an All-Ireland club intermediate title. Fantastic year in 2022 for them. they were a bit hit and miss last year, I think it's fair to say, at Senior B level, in fairness, and they'll be the first to admit that, you know. But that day against Ballybrown taught them a bit of a lesson. It was a very, very strong performance from Ballybrown, who earned a huge win in the Bog Garden. That a very wet Saturday evening game, if my memory is correct. Both teams have probably gone in different directions since. Ballybrown have kind of stalled since, you know, where their championship ended up with a defeat to Mungret, even though they won all their games, as we saw a couple of them. Remember, we had a couple of them with you.
Oh yeah,
They did, but they did stall, and they were fully confident going into that Mungret game, but Mungret deservedly came out on top of that, and obviously promotions there. There's been a change in management again in Ballybrown ahead of this season as well. So look, and I believe again have had a fair few injury problems as well. Like Tom may be able to come into this and comment further on that, but I believe a couple of cruciate ligament injuries from what I gather and talking to people in their camp in recent times as well, to a couple of key players. Josh Adams, I think, is one, and Mikey Gavin. 2 huge losses for the year for Ballybrown. And Monaleen, Matt, on the back of more and more players coming into their senior setup for this year. The likes of Dara Furlan's a year older, Dara Langan's a year older, you know, you've Ronan Lyons is a year older, and Donegal O'Donnell is a year older. That added to what they already have, it's a very strong looking Monaleen panel.
Yeah, they you know, they were an enigma as far as I was concerned last year. And, you know, what really opened my eyes about Monaleen was the manner in which they went down to Ballybrown in the first round, which you alluded to, because here was a team that had done it all the year before. They had won a difficult Munster Championship, if you will recall, because Ross Gray were absolutely raging hot favourites, you know, and they saw them off. And then was it Bray Emmets in the semi-final, who were again reputed to be a very, very strong side before defeating Turin, you know, in the All-Ireland final. And you were saying to yourself, now there's going to be momentum here. And, you know, but it didn't happen for some reason. Now, I saw him playing Pallaskeny. They were absolutely irresistible.
Same against South Liberties.
Yeah, they were simply fantastic. But you must remember now, you know, to put it into context, that these were the two teams that finished bottom.
True.
You know, so they've got to find that little bit of extra edge that will take them up a bit, you know. And like you mentioned the various players that they have. You omitted Larkin Lyons and Joe Fitzgerald. Like they've some
outstanding talents all over the field.
Some outstanding talent around the pitch. You know,
Jamie Power in goals, who spent time with Limerick the last couple of years,
yeah, you know,
as well, and even the likes of Luke Murphy, an accomplished footballer, but a fairly accomplished hurler as well. They've talent. I just wonder, Matt, if you're looking at the template, maybe a bit like Mungret last year, they had a year, you know, to look at what was ahead of them at senior level. And they'd go at it, you know, and maybe Monaleen can be looking something similar this year.
Yeah, maybe
have all the attributes, and as well with the same management team in place.
Yes,
again.
That's very, very important that they've had continuity now from winning the All Ireland right through to their first year. But you know, when you go up a grade, like, and in a 5-match series, you know, you can rightly point to winning 2 games out of 5 as being consolidation. And they did that, certainly. At no stage did they seem to be in any trouble of falling back down to Premier Intermediate. But I think it's going to be a very difficult start. There's such a core of very good players in Ballybrown. Like, you the standout players, Aidan O'Connor, Colin Coughlin, and the like of those, you know, and but you must remember that they have won Premier, Minor and Under-21 championships in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, we're talking about Monaleen talents, Matt. There's plenty of talent out in Ballybrown. There always is.
Yeah, and this is their time now, and this is the age profile for them to deliver, you know. And I was impressed with them last year. The one weakness I saw, John, and I think we were together at this particular match, you know, the way in the closing stages when they had Pallaskeny on the racks, like, partly left Gary Spillane back into it.
Concession of a few goals.
Soft scores, you know, which would give me a small bit of worry about their ability to close out a tight game. You know the point I'm making?
Yeah.
You know, and that was only a snapshot. And like the year before, I think there was a very tight game with South Liberties, which cost them again. You know, but I have no doubt that they will develop that. But yeah, looking at the group overall, like I suppose the bear pit is what I describe it, because it's going to be so hard for one team to come out of it. It's going to be very hard to get in the top two, to get top. You know, it's going to take some doing.
Indeed, it is. It's predictions time for the Senior Hurling Championship Group 1 and 2. Tom Clancy joins us. Tom, you may want to explain the sunglasses and why you're not presenting this week. That's up to you. If not, we move on.
Have you not seen the weather? No.
I've certainly seen it. Have you?
I have. Yeah. No. Small procedure over the weekend. So I'd say laser eye surgery is the easiest way to put it, but slightly different lens replacement therapy, I think, is the more technical term, but very similar to laser eye in its result, hopefully. So yeah, anyone that's accused me now of missing stuff, I won't be able to blame my eyesight anymore if I miss the stuff out in hurling field. While
given your future refereeing career, Tom, they say the referee is always blind. That's what this joke from the sideline is. They can't accuse you of that anymore, anyway.
No, won't be sponsored by Specsavers. Be sponsored by Optolays now. So you know, new
there's the plug, Matt. There was the plug.
Well, Tom, I was always of the opinion that you saw too much. You'll bloody well be able to see around corners now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, well, I suppose some people would say that no matter what I can see, I might know much about hurling, but sure, we'll see.
That can be said of all of us. Tom, we won't hold you. We know you're a very busy man in the recovery process. We're going to do predictions like we've done the football so far.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the fact that I'm bottom of the football. We'll move past that very quickly.
Tom had nothing to say about that now.
No, Tom wouldn't dream of saying anything.
No,
Tom reminded me, you know.
Matt's 13, Tom 11, 9, John on 9. But
sure, there's only two rounds.
Long way to go.
Long way to go.
Yeah, just before we go to predictions, John, I was just listening to you there now, and great chat about the 6 games that we've ahead. And you were talking about the championship being won by the same 3 teams. You know, I just had a quick flick there. And 2009, I think you said it there, John. Obviously, that's it. 2009.
15
so
years,
that's we're into the 15th season now, as it were. So, you know, you'd be struggling to predict that won't go into a 16 season, you know, for next season.
And Tom, that's with different variations of the championship, the old style and what we've had for a number of years now.
That's it.
Truncated version, the whole lot.
Yeah, that's it. We'd have had divisional teams, I think, in 2010 and 11 involved in it, and then you'd have had 16 teams for 2012, I think, and then we're down to 12 and mixed groups, and now kind of the senior A and B. So yeah, look, no matter what has changed, there has been little result in it, and we have to go back to 2016 since we had a different team other than the big fours we're calling them, in the final, and that being Ballybrown. So like we've had the same big four, and I'd love to see a change, and not because I'm not from any of those clubs, like, but we would love to see a freshness. So it was great when South Liberties broke that bit of a hoodoo, but we'd love now if maybe another couple did something similar this year, and maybe in the group stages is where it could happen. You know, last year was maybe a chance for Doon to be squeezed out, but as Matt said, you know, they really dug into their reserves. So I mean, we must tip our hat to those sides as well, as we're not criticizing them. We must tip our hat to their consistency, you know, over the last 8, 9, 10 seasons or beyond in some cases, you know. So yeah, that's it, in fairness. So
that's what I said about Mungret as well, Tom. You know, only one team from Group B has won a quarter final.
Yeah.
It's indicative of the step up that there is. Like Kildimo made the step up and came back down again. Adare have gone up and come back down again. Like Ballybrown have gone up and come back down again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ahane, I think Ahane went up 1 year and back down. Yeah. It's you know, there's definitely a gap there. There's no doubt about it, and it's reflected in the quarterfinals, and then it's obviously reflected in the group the following year. Like so,
I could be eating my words on this. I think this year could be a change. I think there could be a change this year. I think Mungret and what they've done we're at the very start of the championship, I know, but what Mungret have produced last year in particular, Tom, you would have seen a fair bit of Mungret and Ballybrown, obviously, and during other games. But Mungret, and we were both there in a very wet and windy December evening when they overcame Monaleen in a cracking Premier Under-21 final that, in horrendous conditions, the quality of hurling played. So I think you're seeing teams like Mungret and Monaleen in particular. It's up to Ballybrown as well to challenge that, as well as Ahane, Adare, Kildimo, Pallaskenry, as Matt said, and everyone else at Senior B. It's up to them to get to the same level as Kilmallock, Piarsaigh, Patrickswell and Doon. As you said, it's not Kildimo, it's not the top four's fault that they're the top four more often than not. It's testament to the work they've put in over the years. It's up to everyone else to catch them.
I attribute a lot of that to the influence of Piarsaigh. Like, in fairness, they were the pioneers of this huge amount of work and converting it into success. Now you've Monaleen, Ballybrown, Mungret, all trying to emulate him. Fantastic for Limerick hurling.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah. Just to another point in terms of you were looking at the fixtures, and as I was listening to you talking about it, I'd love if the fixtures were shuffled a bit. They weren't. It's the same, and I think it was quite similar in the Premier Intermediate. A lot of the repeat fixtures in round one, and
it's a seeding thing, as Matt said.
It is. You had Monaleen and Ballybrown in the first round last year, so you're trying to get players excited, and I suppose they're going to be excited anyway. But we'd love to see, a different mix and match there, and Doon and Kilmallock. I remember being at the round one game of that last year. A bit of a blowout for Kilmallock. The same with Adare, Patrickswell and the Piarsaigh, etc. I'd love if there was a bit more of a shuffle there with that for whatever way you could do it, because we need to create excitement around this. The attendances have been good, but they can always be better, and we can always have more excitement and more people tuning into the games, or whatever means that would be. It'd be great. Be great if that could happen. But look, let's hope for a blockbuster championship anyway. So predictions time, I think.
Yeah, valid point. We will start, and we'll get the fixtures back up on screen. We might as well start at for the first game, Doon versus Kilmallock. What are your thoughts, Matt? We'll start with you.
Kilmallock +3.
I have it here in black and white as well. Kilmallock +3.
I'm going to go Doon +2.
Doon by 2.
If you're taking notes there, I'm hoping.
Yeah, Doon by 2 and Kilmallock by 3 is that. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Right. Second game is Piarsaigh versus Patrickswell. We'll follow the same format, Matt.
Patrickswell by 2.
Patrickswell by 2.
I'll go in front of you this time, Tom. No, go on. You go.
No, I'm Patrickswell by 2 as well. That's why I'm laughing.
Patrickswell by 2. I'm going to Piarsaigh by 4.
Right.
There could be one. There could be someone on top, or someone very much ensconced in the bottom by this.
Absolutely, unless there's draws galore now.
Unless there's draws galore, we're all in trouble. And the final game of Group 1, Senior A, Mungret and Paws versus Ahane on Saturday evening. Matt?
Ahane by 2.
Thomas?
Mungret, Nave Pole by 2.
I'm Mungret, Nave Pole by 2 points as well. Okay. Sorry, I'll change that down to 3. Change it to 3. Yeah.
Sorry, Matt, what was yours? Ahane by 2, was it?
Ahane by 2, yeah.
Brilliant, yeah.
Right, gents, on to Group 2, Senior B. We start off with Thursday night's game, Drumnathlacka versus South Liberties.
I'll kick us off here, lads. I thought Group 1 was hard to call. This group was even worse, but
very, very tricky.
Yeah, Drumnathlacka by a point.
I'll go second, Drumnathlacka by 3.
Clean sweep, Drumnathlacka by 4.
1, 3 and 4, okay.
There we go. We'll get the fixtures back up now. Kildimo, Pallaskenry versus Adare.
Yeah, now in fairness, I was talking about fixtures to great excitement. Local derby, a lot of the players living very, very close to each other there. And
there's a bit of history there as well, with a certain full forward from Adare who used to play with Kildimo back in the day.
Yeah,
his relations all over the shop.
Yeah, playing for Pallaskenry.
Pallaskenry. That one now, as you said, Tom, you can't beat a good local derby starting off the championship. Go on.
Yeah. I'm going to Adare by 2, and I think just to make a point on it, Barry O'Connell wasn't fully fit last year, but a big loss overall, and I think from what I've heard, lads, as well, Darren O'Connell should be back, but I think they're down a couple of other kind of key players around the place as well. So look, we'll see, but just giving Adare the nod this week.
By what, Tom?
Oh, 2, sorry.
Matthew?
Adare by 3.
I'm the same, Adare by 3 on that one.
Okay.
And the final Senior B game, Group 2, Monaleen versus Ballybrown, Saturday evening, a cracker in Fedamore. Tom?
What do we call this?
I know what we were going to call it anyway.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, Ballybrown have had a lot of change. You mentioned the Cruciates and obviously speedy recovers to Josh Adams and Mikey Gavin. Retirements as well, Stevie O'Reilly, David Hartnett, Mark Sheehan, 3 men who featured heavily last season, and obviously a lot before that. It's a lot of the team to be missing, but after all that, I still hope, blindly so, that they maybe will sneak this one by a point. But I know Monaleen will be all the better for a year at the senior grade, so I'm expecting a tight one in Fedamore. Ballybrown by 1.
Matt?
Ballybrown by 2.
I'm going the opposite of you again, lads. Massively impressed by what Monaleen have done. I know a lot of lads out in Ballybrown, huge time for them, Tom, as you know, but I just think that the injuries to 2 key players, certainly Josh and Mikey, to very Leicesters, and Mikey is a cracking player. I will say this, like James Coughlin coming through, there's a lot even more young talent coming through in Ballybrown this year that will get more game time given those injuries and the retirements, as you said, but fill in the boots of Stevie O'Reilly, Mark Sheehan and David Hartnett. Very difficult thing to do. So I'm going Monaleen by 4.
Yeah. No, there's one other prediction we're missing, lads. Well, but I'm going to say 1. I'm going to say 2, actually. Who's going to win it? And
we're going with that as well, right?
Who's going to be relegated out? We might as well.
Might as well. I'll go first on this. I think the Piarsaigh again for county title. I Matt, the point you made about Doon. If Doon can stay injury free, I think they have an absolutely fantastic chance. The appointment of Derek McGrath, that's a huge move. I know that Fergie O'Loughlin in situ last year with a bit of help from Davy Fitzgerald from time to time as well, and that helped Doon an awful lot given their injury issues. But if Doon can stay injury free and hit the form that we know they're capable of, as I said, talking to Darragh O'Donovan at the launch, he's a quietly confident Darragh O'Donovan. That's certainly what I took from the chat I had with him. They have Richie English back. If they could get Josh Ryan back, as Matt said, very much so. But the Piarsaigh, even without Peter Casey, are going to be a terribly hard nut to crack, So I'm going to Piarsaigh or Doon with just about the Piarsaigh.
Matt?
I'm going Kilmallock.
Kilmallock, okay. And I'm going to go for Patrickswell. So it's
Doon to win it all, lads.
Yeah, someone else. They won't even get. No, I think I'd love to see Patrickswell Doon final. In terms of the players that they have,
Absolutely.
And I think the Kieran Carey addition there, he knows how to get the business done there. And I think Aaron Gallan's form, as we saw against Cork, and for most of the year, when you have a player like that, he was the top scorer. He got the golden hurley, as it was in the championship last year for Patrickswell. He knows where the posts are. I think he got something like 5 or 6 goals in the championship, or was it even more than that for a finish? He'll take stopping. And are we going to go with a relegation? Is it difficult to call? But
I think we shouldn't. I don't think it's fair to call relegation without a game played. I think leave it off time. Do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
Tom always wants the controversy, Matt. He always.
I don't.
He always
I don't.
No, I don't think, Tom. Not that.
Oh, no, it's very hard. It's very hard to predict that because
it's just very hard in teams that are starting their year and to be leveled with anything. I think certainly, I think it's wide open in both groups, to be brutally honest. So I think we leave it at that.
Yeah, I think just before I go now, I think that Group 2 it's probably the closest from 1 to 6 as we'll probably have ever seen. I think over the years there was always 1 or 2 standout candidates who would win it and come second.
You could make a promotion and relegation argument for all 6. To be honest,
you really could. I think the three teams, if there are 3 teams beating the weekend, I think they'll be under a lot of pressure going into round 2. So, watch the space. I think that group was really what we're watching this year. So I'd be encouraging people to get out to those games as much as the senior A ones.
Absolutely.
Might not have the stars that that we're used to maybe in the senior A, but I tell you, there'll be no shortage of drama in that grade.
Absolutely, Tom. Thanks for joining us in the recovery.
Tom, I would like to remind all our listeners and all our viewers that us 3 don't puck a ball.
Exactly.
We're just giving our opinion. I don't want people coming up to me, you said we'd be beaten. No, we won.
It's only a bit of fun.
That kind of rhetoric drives me mad.
These predictions, lads, as we'll say between ourselves and everyone else that's watching and listening, they're opinion-based, and our opinion is our opinion. It doesn't mean we're right or we're wrong or we're going after anyone. They're as unbiased as you're going to get, except for Tom's, obviously, with Ballybrown, Matt, but we'll leave that one alone.
I know.
John,
Tom,
before we finish up, we'd want to wish the very best of luck to Colin Ryan, who is taking part in the All-Ireland Puck for the final this weekend. It's on Monday at 11:30 in the Cooley Mountains. As we know, Colin won it in 2021 and has only barely missed out in the last 2 years. Last year to Fionn Mackesy of Kerry, the previous year to Killian Phelan of Kilkenny, and it's a star-studded field that our 12 competitors will go to post this year, including 4 former winners. There'll be Colin, there'll be the defending champion Fionn Mackesy, there will be Killian Phelan will also be there, and also there will be the 2017 and 2018 winner Killian Kiley from Offaly. But the field will also include 2 All-Ireland winners from this year, Peter Duggan, who was 3rd last year, and David Fitzgerald.
An interesting lineup, Matt.
It's a very, very interesting lineup, but Colin won't be fazed by any of that.
No, best of luck. Best of luck to Colin Malachy and that.
Best
no
of luck
better
to Colin,
book,
and we hope this time next week, Colin, that we'll be celebrating another All-Ireland, heading off to Pallas.
Pallas, indeed. Matt, we'll move on. We'll move on to the Premier Intermediate. We'll try and get through the rest as best and as quick as we can. We'll talk about the results last week as I put this week's fixtures on screen. We've Bruff and Grana Ballingarry up first on Thursday evening, Matt. As you know, Bruff weren't in action last week. Grana Ballingarry started their life at Premier Intermediate with a defeat to Newcastle West. And Gareth Ballan, who we both saw Saturday evening, see off Effin up against Blackrock, who are also yet to play a game. We've Piarsaigh, again, not having played one as of yet, facing off against Effin, who, of course, as I said, lost to Gareth Ballan, a very tight contest, a 1-point game. And a Cock-a-hoop, Newcastle West, I've no doubt, Matt, facing Glenrue in the final game on Sunday afternoon. We'll put the fixtures back up again as we're going through them. Matt, very quickly, we'll talk about...
If we can reflect first, Tom.
That's what I want to do. Yeah, no, that's what I was going to do. Newcastle West and Grana Ballingarry, first off, Matt. Great start to the year for Newcastle.
Oh, absolutely. A great start. And you must remember that they just missed out on the semi-finals last year on scoring difference. And it has only happened once before, since the competition was formed in 2014, John, that a team would have 8 points and would have failed to qualify for the semi-finals. So that will give you an idea. They went out on the head-to-head with Blackrock.
Yeah.
And they were beaten by Blackrock by a single point. So, what a near miss, you know. But they've started off on the right vein this year, because Grana Ballingarry would have had a certain momentum coming up with him. I saw him in the county final last year against Croke Kilfinney. Tom was with me. We were doing co-commentary on it, and I was very impressed with him. And I felt, that they were ready for Premier. But the manner in which Newcastle West beat him by a clear 7 points, I think it speaks volumes for Newcastle West. Now, there's a quick turnaround. Grana will be facing a Bruff side that haven't started, hadn't the first round yet. Their first round game with Blackrock has been deferred until the end of August. And, Bruff, they were the inaugural winners in 2014, John, and they've been there or thereabouts since. Now they had a spell senior, but any time that they are in the Premier Championship, they're either around the semi-final or final. They were beaten semi-finalists last year by Drummond and Clackett, who surprisingly beat Bruff twice last year. They beat him in the group stage and they beat him in the semi-final. Now, Masibadi has taken over, who you know formerly from your own club, and as manager in Bruff. But you know, you can start from Sean Finn down along. The quality of players that they have: Sean Finn, Patrick Finn, Danny O'Leary. You know, I could name him: Kevin Bonner, Chris Brown, Paul Brown is still around there. You know, I fancy Bruff to get off to a winning start. Now, Newcastle.
Go on, man.
Newcastle West played Glenroe. Now, Glenroe, like Bruff, it's their first game, and I'm not playing the old soldier here when I say that Glenroe are, you know, they're really down in numbers this year because of retirements mainly, and God knows those that have retired and called time on it, they certainly owe the club and hurling absolutely nothing. So Glenroe are in a bit of a transition phase, you know, and I don't think a cock of the hoop Newcastle West would be an ideal opening game for them. Now, they got 2 wins last year. They got a win over Cappamore and they got a win over Blackrock. And that preserves status. Other than that, they struggled through the competition. And you must remember the year before, John, after 4 games in 2022, Glenroe had 7 points. Didn't pick up a single point in the last 3 games and failed to make the cut. So if you look at that, you know, the downward spiral probably started there. And now it has been compounded this year by a number of retirements of well-known faces. And you know, I don't like saying it, but I'm here to give my honest opinion. I think Newcastle West will be likely to make it 2 wins from 2.
Interesting, Matt. The other 2 games, the Bouncers, Blackrock. As I said, Blackrock beaten finalists and such. Well, they've made such a comeback, Matt. I think you were doing the game at me, the county final, when we were streaming it and doing the commentary and co-coms. It was an absolute brilliant game of hurling. Blackrock did ever so well to come back into it, Matt, with Drumlachlacha. But it was just a stunning game of hurling before the senior final last year. And you know, up against the Bouncers side, that for me last week against F and Matt were mightily impressive.
Yeah, like we'll reflect back on F and the Bouncers, Ballybrown. It was a fantastic game of hurling. Absolutely fantastic game of hurling.
High quality game, yeah. Yeah,
high quality hurling. Now, there was only 1 point in it in the finish, but sort of that distorts the level of mastery that Ballybrown had, you know, had enjoyed, because coming into the hour mark, there were 7 points up into Patrick O'Donovan. And in typical Patrick O'Donovan fashion, he gets a goal and 3 points in the 4 minutes of extra time. And Ballybrown are hanging on at the finish. But I was very, very impressed with Ballybrown. Very, very impressed with the idea of moving Darren O'Shea, Dylan O'Shea to centre half back. You know, Dylan O'Shea, you would imagine, was a midfielder or a forward all day. But how he has settled in there at centre back and has tightened the situation.
Top class performance, Matt. We both said it on the night.
I was hugely impressed also by Limerick man Mark Quinlan.
Super performance midfield.
Super performance at midfield. And then you had Cullen Ryan up at full forward. I think Ballybrown, they've got the spine of the team very, very right. Now, you have Robert Sampson at full back, you have Dylan O'Shea at centre back, Mark Quinlan at midfield with Ono Mahoney, who I thought had a very, very good game. You have Brian Heavey at centre forward and Colin Ryan at full forward. Very, very impressed with him. But I wouldn't back a single cent against Effin not being involved in the shake-up for honours in this competition.
Absolutely. Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely, Matt.
It was the way they set out, Ballybrown set out to negate the influence of Nicky Quaid, you know, by
which they did very well. They did
very well, playing it in over him and playing it to the sides of him, you know. But like they had very, very good performers as well. Like, and Jack Quaid is coming back now, and he made a cameo appearance. But what about Patrick O'Donovan? A goal and 10 points.
Yeah, we at one stage in the match, Matt, I think we were both saying, "Jesus, Paddy's a bit quiet today," and then that was the end of that very fast. I think it was 5 or 6 minutes into the second half. He'd missed a couple of frees, but that's it. He hit a different level after that.
Oh yeah,
we're both big fans, Matt. We're both big fans, and top class young hurler who I've no doubt will be seeing more honours with Limerick over the next few years at senior level. Yeah. Top young hurler in the county, and one of the brightest talents.
Evan will be playing the Piarsaigh on Sunday, and they will see it as now. The Piarsaigh only won 2 matches last year. John, they beat Dunrue in the first round, and they beat Cappamore in the second round. And just to put it into context, these were the 2 teams that finished second last and last. They finished in the bottom 3 anyway.
Yeah.
And after that, they didn't win a game. So they're coming into this game in this competition on a 5-match winless run without taking a single point. Now, all right, that's 23. This is 24. But they probably will have lost maybe a player or 2 with the loss of Peter Casey having to move up somebody to replace him. And I fancy Evan to get back to winning ways on this one. Evan will benefit from the game, despite the fact that it was losing the game. But having said that, I think it's a game that they couldn't say they should have won, because I think Spillane had him at arm's length for most of the second half. It was that incredible burst by Paddy Donovan in the finish that nearly rescued the game from nowhere. But that is what Rive the Rovers-esque players do for you, isn't it? It
is indeed. Some of our viewers, Matt, may not remember Rive the Rovers, but I'm certainly old enough to, and I'm sure there's plenty more. Matt, Spillane Blackrock, I don't think you give a prediction for that one.
No, I did not. I didn't talk about it at all, because I think it's probably the game of the round.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cracking game. First of all, that there's a huge rivalry between them. Absolutely.
As south of South Limerick as you can get, Matt. The 2 of them.
Take it from me. I'm in between the 2.
You know full well. It's an interesting one. Before we talk about the game, I'm right in saying I think that Jimmy Quilty is back at the helm of Blackrock.
Jimmy Quilty and Aidan Fitz are back at the helm. I think Peter Finn is involved in the background. But more important still, Jimmy Quilty Jr. is back in the squad.
Yeah.
And also back in the squad is Dahi Heffernan, who has returned from London, and Nigel Hosford, who was also abroad. So they have strengthened,
big players to come back, Matt. Big players to come back. This is going to be a huge game. Huge game in the context of the competition, and you would be saying to yourself, as we said about Spillane and Evan, likely to be involved in the shake-up. These are 2 that are likely to be in the shake-up again. Listeners and viewers will be entitled to say who will be. There'll be nothing left for anybody if we're saying they're all in the shake-up. But I think I think the game would benefit Spillane. I saw Spillane in the South Senior final, John, and they came up short against Kilmallock, and it was a depleted Kilmallock side. But I liked what I saw about how they were setting up, and it was the same last Saturday night or last Saturday evening, and I think Considine made the point about, with games, the importance of games and games coming up, if I'm put in the corner, I would say it's a win for Spillane. But a very tight game, Matt. Very, very
tight game. Now, Donny Ryan has me warned for my life. Don't predict that Spillane will win, because anytime I do, they lose. But I'm likely to incur his wrath this time, or I'm risking incurring his wrath.
Rather you than me in that one now, Matt. Rather you than me. We'll quickly go through the intermediate, the Nick Green Intermediate Hurling Championship. Group 1 fixtures first off, Matt. 3 games, of course. Maru Boher versus Croke, St. Kieran's Pallaskenry, Broree versus Mungret, if you just look at them on their own, you know, Maru Boher, we know what they can offer. Probably Maru Croke Kilfinny to tie the round in that group, in Group 1.
It is. Maru Boher were only beaten after extra time and in the semi-final last year. And Croke Kilfinny, who are going for a third, who are in intermediate level for a fourth year, and they've lost the last 3 county finals. Now, unfortunately, I have to say that I have experience as chairman of my club back in the 70s of that happening. We won the junior championship in 1974 and lost the intermediate finals of 75, 6 and 7. It was very, very hard to pick it up on the fourth year. Very, very hard. I think this is going to be now, Croke Kilfinny, since they came up, they have an absolutely incredible record in the group stages. I think have they only lost once or twice. They lost to Kilmallock in the final round last year when it was a dead rubber. And I think they drew 1 game in the first year, but other than that, they have an impeccable record. But it seems to be the final that gets them caught. Now, Maru Boher are a work in progress, you know, and they've had good underage teams coming up along. And it wouldn't surprise me one Maru Boher to win this one.
Okay, we look at the other two then again very quickly, Matt. St. Kieran's Pallaskenry, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, St. Kieran's are junior champions 2 years ago. Pallaskenry were beaten semi-finalists in 2022. Very, very, very hard to call them. Pallas are dogged customers. Colin Ryan is a scoring machine. We spoke about him earlier, about his long puck. He knows where the goals are as well when it comes to hurling. Very, very hard to call. You know, St. Kieran's had a decent year last year, consolidated at this level. You know, they may shade it, you know.
Final game, Mungret, St. Paul's, having won the Junior A Hurling Championship last year. They're up against the wily old brewery, Matt. You know, Kevin O'Hagan's monk. He's the senior football manager and the intermediate manager, along with Mike Fitz, who, of course, you know very well as I do. Big game from Mungret, that one, starting off against brewery, and, of course, Mungret's second team. So the senior team will be out before the intermediate team.
Yeah, this is a tough one to call. Brewery are a complete new look team, of course, just to remind people that they were county senior champions in 2006, and quite a few of the players stayed on. Mikey Lane is still around and will probably line out. Now, I don't know about Kieran O'Rourke. He lined out last year, whether he will line out this year or not. I saw Brewery, it was in the Jim O'Brien Memorial Tournament, which they ran and which we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. And they looked impressive. They were against Campamore and they were against Croom. And you must remember, you'd say, what are tournaments and what are challenges. But when they're in the lead up to the championship, they give you a sense of what a team is about. And I think Brewery might win this one, will win this one.
Okay, that's the Nick Green Intermediate Hurling Championship. Matt, I'm going to talk very briefly. We have a new competition, as you know, in the Woodlands House Hotel County Premier Junior A Hurling Championship. The top 11 teams from the Junior A Hurling Championship last year and the relegated side from the Intermediate Championship, all facing up now in a top 12. It's following the same format as the Intermediate Championship and Senior Championship now, with 2 groups of 6 effectively. Number one, your thoughts on this championship, Matt?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. It eliminates, to a fair degree, the prospect of one-sided games and even the prospect of dead rubbers. I'm totally behind the idea, and plus the fact that whoever will go out of Limerick to represent Limerick and Munster will have come out of a very, very competitive competition, which will be another plus. I'm totally with the idea, John. I think it's a great idea.
We'll go through the fixtures.
You should know about it, because probably more about it than I, because your own club, All Christians, you know, have got into the Premier.
Yeah, we do. We're a cracking game first off, Matt, against St. Pat's, a local derby. We played in the first round last year as well. We came out with the victory. It's going to be a dogged, tough game. You look at all these games, Matt, and I'll just go through them. Group 1, starting with Caherline and Askeaton, Kilcorn and Desmonds, aka Desmonds as they're now known, Matt. You've Drumcollar Broadford versus Tournafulla. And on Sunday, you've Monaghay versus Fina. Kilmeady, of course, beaten finalists last year. Thoughts on those 3 games, Matt? You've Caherline, Askeaton, Kilcorn and Desmonds.
It's not too long ago since Caherline won the county final, went into the Munster Championship, played against the Breeze in Kildare against Ballygiblin, and were in a winning position at half-time but failed to see it out. Ballygiblin later went on to contest the All-Ireland final. So there's a good residue of quality in Caherline, trained and coached at the time, and very well coached by Damien Gillan, Aaron's father of Patrickswell. I need to see him up, John, because Fina Kilmeady, of course, will be looking to go one better.
Sorry, Matt, I don't have the hand now. Broadford and Tournafulla is the second one in that group.
Broadford were beaten in the county final in 2022.
Yeah.
Tournafulla, I saw them earlier this year. They were beaten in the league final by Patrickswell.
And the last game then in Group 1 is Monaghay versus Fina Kilmeady. As I mentioned, Matt, I did the game with Joe Quaid last year, and I've been telling people the last few weeks, the Fina Kilmeady Mungret St. Paul's game, and I saw senior games, I saw the senior final, Premier Intermediate final, as good as that was. The highest quality game I saw last year was Fina Kilmeady versus Mungret St. Paul's in the Junior A Hurling Championship. Not saying that because my club was involved in that championship, but the quality on show at that level of Limerick club hurling was the sight to behold. Fina and Monaghay, I mean, Fina Kilmeady against Monaghay, hard one to call. They're all hard games to call in Group 1.
They're all hard ones to call because the format has been reshaped.
It's changed, yeah.
And the fact that we're talking about it in those terms, it immediately signifies that that this is the right way to go.
Group 2, Matt, we're seeing Adare versus Kilteely Drumkeen. Thoughts on that one?
Well, my heart goes out to Adare at the manner in which, if you get relegated on a penalty shootout,
very, very tough, very harsh.
Very, 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 very hard to take. And but you'd expect that the resilience, it might go them into, a response. Kilteely Drumkeen going all right, I'm told. I was talking to one of them the other evening, that they're going okay, and I expect to be there or thereabouts, which, I wouldn't disagree with. Because they're perennial competitors in the closing stages, but they just don't seem to be able to get that extra win, that might take them to the precipice of a breakthrough. So, look, it'll be interesting to see how Adare will recover from, what happened to them last year.
Old Christian St. Patrick's, Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
I thought that you would have thoughts on that.
I've no thoughts on that, Matt.
Are you playing in goals?
I'm not silly enough to have any thoughts on that. I'm not playing in goals, no.
Are you the third choice goalkeeper this year? You were telling me the other night.
No, I'd say fourth or fifth at this stage, Matt, where I belong. That's where I am now. No,
which I took with a grain of salt, by the way.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth.
Yeah, City Derby, and of course, how I suppose it'll come down to how all Christians will deal with the Hegartys. I suppose that's what it is. I suppose 2 even teams. All right, all Christians had to win over them last year. Can they do it again this year? It would be very, very important. A first round win is going to be very important for both sides. Absolutely,
and it's a big game, Matt, and it's part of a double header with the senior game on Saturday afternoon. Old Christian St. Patrick's before Mungret, St. Paul's and Ahane. So we'll be obviously asking people to go to every game this weekend with big promotion of it. Final game in that, Matt, Crocora Manister versus Doon in Group 2. Crocora versus Doon.
We've spoken about Doon already. This is Doon's second team, and they're always there.
They're always strong, Matt. They're at junior level.
Always very, very, very strong.
And of course, Crocora then have the benefit of one of the top young hurlers in the country in Cathal O'Neill to their.
One of the absolutely top young hurlers, and how he didn't make the Sunday game team of the year. I don't know, but why Gillan didn't make it, I don't know either. But now, look, I'd be happier not knowing, probably, I'd say. But yeah, you have Carl O'Neill, who Doon will have to control, like, and like, he's a potential match winner on his own. Let's face it, and like, as an inter-county hurler, John, he has come on leaps and bounds, and like, he bided his time, and people would have said that maybe Cahill should have been on nailing a starting place sooner. But he kept his head down, he kept working, and like, he was rewarded. And like, he's such an integral part of the Limerick squad and the Limerick squad going forward.
No, he is indeed, Matt. That's the predictions, of course.
You missed Group B, Group 2 in the intermediate hurling.
Apologies, I did indeed. Thanks for that, Matt. Knockany Fiona we're starting with. This weekend, Croom and Kilmallock and Cappamore versus Hospital. Apologies for that, Matt. I was getting ahead of myself. Knockany versus Fiona, Matt.
I'm surprised at Knockany last year. Knockany have won the intermediate league for the last 2 years. Did very well last year to come out of the group, and like, went out in the quarter-final to Hospital Herberstown.
Yeah, didn't perform anywhere near their best.
No, and they played this week. They're playing.
I'll get it up there again now, Matt.
Yeah, I'll get mixed up.
Fiona. I'll leave them up. I'll leave the fixtures up. Knockany Fiona first up.
Yeah, Fiona had a very, very bad year last year.
I just want to say, Matt, sorry, it doesn't say it there. It's Saturday afternoon game as well in Ballybrown.
Yeah, it's a double header in Ballybrown. Actually, that
it is. Yeah, you're right. It is.
They had a very poor year last year, and had to depend on the relegation playoff against Adare. It was they inflicted the misery on Adare to retain status. I find it very hard, to find a reason why Fiona are in that position, because if you look at the squad, and I know they have Seamus Flanagan, who's a huge player for them, but they have other good players around, and around him, and sometimes wondering why Fiona are struggling. Now, I've seen Knockany, I see him winning the league this year already, and they're a good side. They have a lot of good players. It's only 2 years since they were relegated from Premier, and I'd be fancying Knockany to get off to a winning start.
Okay, it's Knockany in that one. Croom Kilmallock, Matt has said the second game in that doubleheader. Croom Kilmallock, of course, Kilmallock's second team up against Croom's first team.
Yeah, both strugglers last year. I think Croom only stayed up with a win in the last round. Kilmallock only sealed staying up by defeating Crow Kilfinney in the last round last year. It's going to be tight. It'll depend on whether Kilmallock will use any of that squad for the senior game against Doon. I have a hunch that Crew might win this one. John?
And finally, Matt, in Group 2, Cappamore versus Hospital Herberstown. Of course, Cappamore relegated from Premier Intermediate last year against Hospital. And an improving Hospital Herberstown side, Matt, I'm led to believe as well.
Yeah, reached the semi-final last year. Had one to call. It will all depend on how Cappamore respond to what last year, by any stretch of the imagination, John, was a season from hell. In that, year, you go in, you play 7 championship games, and you lose the 7 of them. Not good. Not good.
No, it's not. It's not. As I was saying, Matt, we also have the Junior A at Woodlands House Hotel Junior A Hurling Championship. We don't really have time to go through them, but again, there's plenty on offer all weekend. Head over to Limerick J's website and have a look at all the fixtures, Matt.
And there's the third or fourth round of the Junior C Hurling Championship.
Yeah, again on top of that as well. It's
a
red letter weekend, Matt. It's a red letter weekend in the Limerick GA calendar.
It is, and there are concluding stages of the Limerick Minor Hurling and Minor Football Championships. I think the Minor B Football Championship is down to a semi-final. I think Celtic Gales are playing, is it Sinnons? Celtic Gales and Sinnons are in the last 3 anyway.
Yeah. Matt, and to finish, you've The ladies senior football fixtures for championship were confirmed recently as well. You want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, no, I if you don't mind, I'll defer it to next week, which will be on the eve of the championship. They're very interesting groups, and what has struck me about the Limerick Ladies Football Championship is the structure. It's a very, very good structure, and I will be talking and I'll be outlining the structure next week. And it's a structure that there is something for everybody, and particularly down at the end, there are 12 teams in the Junior B Championship.
Yeah.
Which will morph into a Junior C and into a Novice Championship. So that there is real jeopardy down there, where it matters, with teams trying to make a breakthrough and trying to come up through the ranks. But obviously we'll talk about the teams, and we'll talk about the structure of the championship next week. And of course, we will have a huge look back on the senior hurling and premier and on the hurling championships.
Indeed, we will. Very thanks. Big thanks, I should say, to Matt O'Callaghan for joining me, John Keogh, this week, Tom Clancy as well for his input and the predictions. Tom will be back in the hot seat next week. Thanks for tuning in to Treaty Talk, episode 291.